What if your business could grow sales by 20 to 35% in just 12 months without hiring a full-time CRO? My guest today has helped dozens of businesses, small and mid-size, who do exactly that. John Noonan is the president of Growth Plan Partners and a top advisor at Sales Accelerator, with over 35 years of leadership experience in sales and marketing. He now works with his business owners as a fractional chief revenue officer, building sales engines that actually scale. In this episode, we'll unpack John's personal story from corporate leadership to hands-on advisor, how he's built his own successful practice, and the exact ways he has helped clients fix broken sales processes and generate real sustainable growth. If you're an entrepreneur, business owner, or sales leader who wants to know how to scale smarter, this is a conversation for you. Hey, John, how are you today?
Good, Mark. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining me today. The first question I'm going to ask you is about this 20 to 35% growth that you talk to in your marketing. So you aim to do that within under a year. What's the first thing you look for when you're starting with a new client?
The clients that I work with are generally in the revenue range of $5 million to $75 million. And this is an area where we watch a lot of businesses get stuck. Great idea, great concept, great product, whatever it is they produce. They get out there, they go selling. The owner's probably still one of the top salespeople, and they drive revenue to some number, 10, 20, $30 million. And then the brakes go on and everybody's looking at one another trying to figure out what happened. 9 times out of 10, it involves just a lack of process, systems, accountabilities, KPIs, and a tracking of what they're doing, how they're doing it, and developing the systems that are necessary to scale. So that's why we see this rapid growth when I come in and I put these systems in place that never existed before. It's as simple as a CRM system. To date, about 50% of my clients don't have or don't use a CRM system. So they're not even keeping track of who their major targets on. They haven't sat down and thought about their ideal client profiles and target markets and things like that. So these are the areas that I work on first to help these clients. And again, these aren't startups. So this 20 to 35% growth is breaking that blockage, if you will, or that dam, and allowing them to get back to the area where they were producing before.
How can that size of business not have a CRM system and be able to track where their leads are coming from and where their relationships are? Are they doing it on a piece of paper? Are they doing it on an Excel spreadsheet? Are they tracking it that way rather than a full CRM?
Agreed. And or if they're manufacturing something, a lot of times they'll have an ERP system or something like that, and they're just keeping simple lists. I'm working with a client right now that's a top manufacturer, $30 million. They have an ERP system that helps them produce product, but they have no data until they actually provide a proposal to somebody that they're keeping at the company level. They leave it up to the salespeople to use whatever kind of system or list that they want to, and bring it to bear from there. So
that's astonishing. I think it's astonishing. Can you talk me through how you build a process of a sales plan that actually will deliver these types of results, this 20 to 35% increase?
Sure. We're going to start right away with one of the things I said before is many companies, even at this size, have never really sat down and gone through some workshops to decide who is our ideal client. Who can we best serve? What is our value proposition to them? And I'm going to get very granular here and say unique value proposition. You can go to 5 websites and everybody's saying the same thing, right? So why should I buy from you? What is absolutely unique that no one else can say? You really have to get down to that point, and you have to decide who your ideal clients are. Where can you make the most money? Where can you best serve a client base? Again, I walk into most companies and the shotgun is out. It's just what's ever reacting at the day, whatever articles somebody read, let's go get them, let's go get them, let's go get them, without a clear thought out plan and process to go after them. So once you pick your ideal client, once you pick your value proposition that you can offer them, now you can start to develop these processes and systems of a sales process, right? What do I have to do from beginning to end? You almost have to map the buyer's journey first. We talk a lot about sales process, but in essence, I talk to clients about understanding the buying process. How does this type of client buy in today's marketplace? And then how are we going to adapt our sales process to make sure that we satisfy their needs, desires, wants, and the way that they buy? If you do that, you're going to be a winner.
And you've mentioned a couple of times already in the first few minutes about systems and processes.
Mm-hmm.
So, what does that look like for a $5 million business?
Sure. Again, let's go back to that sales process. Let's start there. It looks like having the targeted steps, if you will, to first discover a client in our ideal client profile, then to engage them, then the messaging that we're going to send them, okay? And the methodology we're going to use. It was interesting. I was talking to somebody the other day about getting people to react to your messaging. I can remember 15 years ago, we were amazed to learn that most people won't respond until you send them 8 emails. Okay. Today, we don't just call them emails, we call them touch points because it could
Yeah.
be LinkedIn, it could be a text, it could be anything. The last number I heard was 13. So now it says 13 before someone will even react to you.
So I've heard
So,
14. I
oh,
did
okay.
similar research. It was 7 or 8 before, and it's now turned into 14 touch points. And it
I
is,
love,
as a
yep.
business owner,
So,
it's a massive hurdle for small businesses, medium-sized businesses, even larger businesses, getting those
mhm,
number of touch points. And so you build
right.
that as part of your process, do you?
Correct, correct. And then the opposite research shows that the average salesperson, I think in the old days was maximum 3 attempts. Today, I think that's up to 7 or 8. So again, continuing to measure and encourage the touch points and the outreach that a salesperson has is critical to monitor a process that's going to win. Because in essence, I think we all understand that sales, if conducted correctly, is a math formula. In other words, if you need so many dollars of revenue, $1 million of revenue, you should know that's going to take so many dollars of proposals. I think a good balance is about a 50-50 hit rate. If you're getting a 50-50 hit rate on your proposals, I think you're in a good place. If you're getting a hit rate much higher, you haven't reached out to enough people. If you're getting a hit rate that's lower, you're quoting too many things that you shouldn't be. You're probably wasting some of your quotation time. So again, back to that, let's say $1 million of business means you need $2 million of proposals. How many meetings is it going to take to encourage potential clients to give you those proposals and to get those meetings? How many touch points is it going to take to get to them? And you can back that all up and maybe say $1 million turns into, it's different in every business, but 50 calls a day or 50 touch points a day for the average salesman to do that type of thing. So that's the kind of systems and process that we put in place that we measure today. And obviously the CRM systems today are fantastic at keeping track of that. You can dial your phone right out of the CRM system and work everything from one area.
What's your favorite CRM system for that size business?
For that size business today, I'm going to go with Pipedrive. I was a
Pipe.
big fan and have been of HubSpot, and HubSpot is an excellent system. I'd probably recommend HubSpot if you knew you were going to have a much larger marketing program coming down the pipeline once you fix your sales problem. If marketing's the next big challenge, because HubSpot does a really good job. I think it was started as a marketing platform actually, and then became a CRM. HubSpot did it the other way. They were a CRM that now has a marketing channel, and it also has a project management channel. So from a cost benefit perspective, I recommend Pipedrive to most of my clients right now.
Interesting. Hashtag not an ad. Just,
No,
just
exactly. No, I don't get anything out of it.
what you said about the sales metrics of breaking it
hmm
down. Now, a
hmm
lot of my audience are smaller businesses that are looking for growth, and that's why they come to the channel.
hmm
It's called Business Growth Talks.
Sure.
And you very quickly broke down, you want 1 million sales, you have to put £2 million of proposals, and then backwards
hmm
from there, how many touch points that you needed. How can some of my audience think about that? Can you just break down the mathematical process you go through to get
hmm
from I want X revenue, let's just say 1 million revenue, just for ease of the conversation.
Hmm.
I want 1 million revenue. How do you go
Hmm.
backwards from there to get how many touch points, how many salespeople, how many conversations, how many LinkedIn posts, how many outreach emails? How do you break that down? Can you just break it down for me into a little bit more detail so some of my audience can take that away
Sure.
from?
And again, it's probably different based on different industries and how you're approaching it. Some businesses have professional purchasing organizations that you're going to be approaching, and that's a little bit different than someone who you're trying to reach, I don't know, a business owner, let's say, to sell
Yeah,
you
let's
and
take
their.
the example of a business owner with a service-based industry. If you could do that, would be fantastic.
Okay, gotcha. So again, let's go back to that formula. So we want £1 million or $1 million in sales. I'm going to again say that we probably will need to produce $2 million in proposals to get that if we're doing it right. And again, you can go through that analysis yourself, and over time, you're going to watch that adjust. I assume that, right now, a lot of my clients I go into are proposing 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times the amount that they're winning. And again, I would state that's when you got to get down and look at your target market and what type of people you want to propose. If you're out there just generating quotes in hope of business without forming a relationship and understanding a need, that's not going to get you anywhere. That's a lot of wasted efforts. Okay, let's get back to that. We're back to $2 million or 2 million pounds of revenue of proposals that we need to make. Now we have to figure out how many clients did it take to get that? Okay. So is our business such that it's an item that only costs £1 or $1? That's a whole lot different than
Yeah,
if our product is 100,000. Okay,
yeah.
type of thing. So we've got to first figure that out. Okay, how many proposals are we going to have to put out there versus how much does the average client buy from us? Okay, and you've got to look at that analysis real closely. So let's say the average client buys $100,000 from us. Okay, so then obviously we need 10 clients to produce that $1 million. And to get those 10 clients, we may need to propose 2 million of value to get to that. Now, back to the okay, now how often do we have to contact them? How do we have to deal with them? If we're selling our product to small business owners and things like that, it just got a whole lot more difficult than a professional buyer that knows what they want, was trying to understand value, delivery, service levels. A business owner may not have completely established what their criteria is for their own buy. Okay, they just know that they need to buy this service. Maybe it's a component of something that they make, let's say, that they then ultimately sell to another customer. So they're out there buying this component on a regular basis, type of thing, but they're looking for a lot more service, I think. So I think their criteria for buy is going to be different, and they're going to take a different approach to how they are approached during the sale. And I think that's what salespeople have to think about, because ultimately you have to satisfy the need of the buyer and what that is. Now, I've always said that there's really two different ways you can benefit a buyer, whoever that is. One is being having something so unique or being so creative that you're constantly bringing something new to the table that's exciting and different. And maybe this person, if they're not the owner, is a buyer, they can get promoted by bringing something in, or you're their go-to person, right? I've got so much on my desk, I can't get through my day without good partners. So if I know that I can take these items that I need off my desk and give them to you and they just go away magically, right? You give me a decent price, you always give me good service. I've never been embarrassed. That's a different type of approach than the others. Those are two ways I think salespeople can add value to a buyer. And I think most clients that I work with are probably working on that. Get this off my desk, please take it away. They don't have something that's so unique and so different. They're not selling the latest technology, although some of them could be, but most are not. They're trying to differentiate themselves from a big field of potential suppliers to this person, right? So again, you got to focus back on that unique value proposition. What makes you unique? Let's see if it resonates. And then back to the math formula, your original question of how often you have to get to them. You've got to do several things today. You've got to have your outreach. Okay. You're going to be email, I still think is essential. Okay. The pure pick up the phone for sales is a very difficult approach today. We've all got caller ID. We know who's on the other end, or we see that it's spam. We're not picking up our phones. You may have a compelling voicemail, and you shouldn't give that up. I'm a big believer in an email introduction first. So let's get that email introduction first, and or let's link in, maybe send some messages via LinkedIn, link in with the person type of thing, just as a point of introduction. Okay. Then you can start to make your approach from there. Then you can start to continue your emails once you've connected with them in one way or another. Let's say that's on LinkedIn. Now you're going to start a little bit of an email trail. But again, you've got to then stay a thought leader in your industry. I think this is what some people forget and business owners forget. Okay. In other words, my salesmen are out there doing it. You just hope they do their job and bring business over the bow. And they forget that LinkedIn is a powerful tool for an organization, be it the business owner or anybody else in their organization, to promote what they do and be a thought leader in the industry. So that I'll step back for 1 second. I tell most of my sales teams when I start with them and business owners, to me, sales is three things. It is a need or a problem that needs to be solved on one side. It is a solution and a supply on the other side. And when they marry, that's a perfect match if they fit. Okay. But people forget about timing. Okay. It's those two items plus proper timing. And proper timing may take a while to come about. There may be a vetting process at the company that's buying. They may have other priorities right now. They may not have a budget for what you're doing. So not only do you have to determine whether you have the product or service to satisfy the need, you have to adapt to the timing of the buyer. And that goes back to understanding the buying process, right? The bigger companies, they probably buy against a timed system where they RFP every year or two
Yeah.
years or things like that. But back to your question of the smaller client, you still have to understand them. The questions have to become a little deeper when you explore and talk to the buying source on the other side. In other words, what other priorities might you have? It sounds like we have a fit here. What might affect the timing of us coming together? And really get to understand that. And if you understand that, well, it's just a timing thing. They've got to finish one project before another. And then you can stay close and nurture that lead over time.
Yeah.
You then can be the successful winner when the timing is right. I know I went
Yeah.
off on a little there, but
No, timing is so important. Like people can be the
right.
right buyer, but it's not the right time for them. And I experienced that with my business as well, just understanding that
Mhm.
sometimes it's just not the right time. But moving on,
Right.
talking about your business and how you grew,
Mhm.
what are the earlier steps that you took to build Growth Plan Partners that made it
Mhm.
a success? What were those steps that you made?
Yeah, thank you. After being in the corporate world and doing it traditionally for so long, it was very new to me when I started my own practice and I went out there. Luckily, I had some help from Sales Acceleration, the group that I represent, and we talk about a six-prong networking process, okay? Because what I do, I have to network. I'm introduced to my clients by others. It's rare that I pitch myself via LinkedIn or email or anything like that. It's very difficult to get to an owner or even understand what their concerns and issues are. So, again, 95% of my business is by referral. So, to make sure that I'm strong in the referral network, I have to decide on different referral networks that I belong to and different types of organizations. Public speaking has to be a big part of what I do. I think that's probably the most effective way that I gain clients for myself is when I can get in front of a group of CEOs or business owners, okay, and talk about issues that they currently have and how I may be able to solve them. But that's difficult to do. Business owners are busy. And LinkedIn, I utilize as a thought leadership platform because, again, I'm not pitching owners on LinkedIn. They're not on LinkedIn. They're just not. They're running their businesses. They're not there all day trying to find people and do things and stuff like that on LinkedIn. So I think my success, early success, was from making sure that I was involved in as many networking opportunities as possible. It took a while to vet out those groups that were better for me and those that wasted my time, and then got focused on the ones that were more for me, that focused on business owner problems and people that were actually speaking with the business owner. It's critical that my referral partners have the ear of that owner. They're the ones that are going to hear the fact that business is stalled. I'm putting in 60 hours a week and I'm not getting anywhere. My salespeople are posing problems. I pay them a ton of money and they're not concentrating on the areas I want to. So these are the things that people can hear when they say, maybe you should have a conversation with John. He might be able to help.
How
So
much time do you spend on networking per week, let's say, on a regular
I
week?
would probably, yeah. Networking, I would say it's at least 25% of my time.
Right.
Doing things like this, going to networking events, doing one-to-ones with other referral partners, etc.
So you mentioned about referrals and partnerships. So what role has referrals and partnerships made in your business? Because you said it is a critical pathway because you're being introduced to people, not necessarily pitching to people from a cold pitch. So how
Right.
have you been able to build those partnerships and referrals?
Again, by affiliating myself with networks that are communicating with the business owners of the size and types of industries that I personally serve. Again, that $5 million to $75 million revenue, business owners. And it's interesting because I remember I was telling this to somebody. I talked to a lot of people that said that they called on those size businesses, right? And maybe those types of businesses, whether they were manufacturing or construction or some kind of logistics company, whatever it happened to be. But then I realized through further interrogation that they weren't really calling on the business owner. They were calling on somebody else. Okay. They were calling on the CFO, or they were calling in somebody in operations or production or something to sell their wares. And again, my referral partners have to have the ear of the business owner. That's the only way they're going to be able to hear the issues that I solve and recommend me. So
Yeah.
that's where I put a lot of my time.
What's the makeup of your team at Plan Partners?
What's the main? I'm sorry.
That your team around you that support you, is it just you, or is there a number of people that work with you?
Let's say so. Growth Plan Partners is my personal LLC, my company, right? And I do have an assistant that helps me, but the rest of my team is really the Sales Acceleration organization that I
Right.
belong to. So there are 250 of us now around the country, around the world, actually. There's several in the UK and we help and support one another and share and pool our knowledge and best practices. We have some mini groups for different types of clients that we assist and help. And quite often we may co-advise. I have been called in by others because of my corporate backgrounds in different industries and different markets, as have called people in. It's just a lot quicker to serve a client if you can bring someone in who speaks the language, who understands the three-letter acronyms from the beginning and the products and services offered, as opposed to having to learn that on the front end. And we find that to be very beneficial to our clients. So they also support us with marketing and other offerings where they do the research. And for example, CRMs. Our corporate is always out there looking at the latest and greatest CRMs, giving us comparisons, letting us know what the appropriate fit may be for the type of clients that we're working on. And they look for productivity partners, again, others that we can engage to better serve our clients as well.
Thank you for that answer. What would you say your aspirations for your business is now? Because you've got a good network around you, you've got the support of Sales Accelerator. What does the plan look like for your business?
Interesting, and it's where I am in my career. I make no bones about it. I'm 65 years old. I will probably never quit working. I love helping people. I love training salespeople. People always told me you should have been a teacher instead of a salesperson, but that's neither here nor there. So what I'm looking to do for me, I am not looking to grow my practice to 2, 3, 5 times. That's not where I am in my life right now. I am looking to serve 4 or 5 clients simultaneously and help them grow. And that's my comfort zone right now. That's a good amount of work for me where I'm not working every weekend and every night and day. I've done that growth, and I'm willing to help my clients get to those growth levels on an individual basis. But for me personally, I'm not looking to take my practice to a level beyond. Now, currently, and for the past 2 years, and I'll make it again this year, I've been in the top 10% of producers at Sales Acceleration. So we're honored with the President's Circle Award every year.
Yeah,
So I'm there. I'm producing what top producers are doing, but I'm not looking for that golden ring. I'm not looking to be, the top producer anymore. I'm looking to best serve the clients that I decide to engage and know that I can help and get them growing at rates above and beyond.
amazing. So, talking a little bit about your journey and your
Mhm.
story. So, you've led sales for decades across multiple different industries, but what first pulled you into sales? What was the draw for you into the sales
Mhm.
industry?
Yeah, it was interesting. I had some smaller sales roles, but once I graduated college with my bachelor's degree, I took a job with a $2 billion company, Avery Dennison, which is a big packaging, labeling. People see their products in office supply houses, but I was on the custom end. So we made custom labels and custom labeling equipment for all types of products, from cosmetics to pharmaceuticals to food products, etc. And I really enjoyed first the diversity of the selling because I sold the labels basically to a marketing group, right, or a purchasing group that wanted to understand how this label would best serve them and help their product jump off the shelf. Then I had to go down into the factory and talk to the production manager and try to sell them on the equipment that would put it on and, in their words, not slow down their line. You slow down my line, I'm coming after your firstborn. So it was a kind of a dichotomous sell, which I enjoyed. It put me in hundreds of manufacturing plants. And I quickly enjoyed the sales training and all the training I was getting at Avery Dennison. They invested in us like you. We had 2 weeks of off-site training. We had periodic training of all kinds, and I actually became very friendly with the training manager. And he quickly saw that I had a propensity for training and I liked it and everything else. And he said, have you ever thought about being a sales leader instead of an individual producer? And I hadn't. And he helped me take some of these assessment tests and things like that that seemed to indicate that I had a good propensity for sales leadership, that I was maybe more akin to wanting to build a team to achieve a goal as opposed to be that individual contributor that did it on my own. And then once I did decide, that was another benefit of being with a large company like that. I got sales management training all the way through, which we joke about it in my industry, but this is a big problem with my clients. They hire a salesperson, they pay them what they can pay them. They always feel like they have to promote them to keep them happy. And ultimately, they make their best salesperson a sales manager. And I'm telling you, 9 times out of 10, that's a huge mistake. That individual contributor doesn't want to be a manager.
Yep,
Okay. They want the
yep.
title, they want the money, but it's just an incorrect way to do it. And it's a big problem in small businesses. So, in any event, I decided early on I wanted to be that leader. I got the training for it, and that helped catapult my career, I think, through the rest of my. I eventually got my MBA. I did that in marketing and finance, and that helped me then lead teams mostly as an EVP of sales and marketing, and building different divisions and rebranding and building the teams around them that supported them and brought the revenue forth.
How did you evolve as a leader in those leadership roles?
Early on, it was quickly and almost a little scary at times. I hate to say it, but in essence, when you look back at it, you say to yourself, did I fake it to make it? But I learned early on, be it in business, be it in life, the most important thing is to just show up. Okay.
Mm,
If you're motivated and you show up every day, you will learn what you need to know to be successful at any endeavor. Okay. It's the ones that fade off and don't pay attention and whatever. So I knew I wanted to be a good leader. Like I said, I went on and continued my MBA. I continued my education. I took whatever training any company ever offered me. I was always looking for that, and I was always looking to expand. In fact, at 39 years old, I actually became the CEO of a $40 million screen printing operation back in the day. And I did it by when a couple of years, I worked for the company for 6 years as their EVP of sales and marketing. And they were one of 10 companies in a consortium.
Right.
And I went to the corporate meeting that year and I saw the CEO and he slapped me on the back and said, "I've heard good things about you, Noonan. What's up in your life?" And I said, "I finished my MBA. When are you going to let me run one of these companies?" And he laughed and he literally called me back a week later. And he said, "The 1 year in, I want to make a move. And if you'll work with me, we'll put you in that position." And so quickly at 39 years old, I became the CEO of a company and got the support again of corporate to get through that. And then we ultimately sold that company to private equity. That was the goal, was this division wasn't fitting as well as some of the others, even though it was very profitable. And then I kind of went into this world of working for companies that were owned by private equity, where I had a little skin in the game. I had a little bit of the management ownership, which kept you focused on all the areas of the business, not just your little slice. So,
So
anyway.
you've mentioned a few different points of your life that made an impact, but is there one pivotal moment that has taken you towards shaping where your career was? Was it the early training that you got? Was it the MBA? Was it the at 39 the CEO? What was that pivotal moment that really meant that your career was going to take off?
It was the pivotal moment in my first job when I engaged closely with the head of sales training, and they became a mentor to me. In fact, that gentleman just died 2 years ago, and
Right,
I have stayed in touch with him. I started that job in 1984 with him,
right.
1984, and we worked together through 1991 or something, I think it was. But I stayed in touch with him. He wrote books on management and things like that. He went on to do a lot of different things. Just generating, having an interest and asking for help. The only thing I can encourage people, younger people, to do today is ask questions and ask for help. There's a multitude of people that are willing to offer the help and the service if you just ask and if you're appreciative. I'm sorry, but my family taught me when I was young to say please and thank you. And those
Yeah.
two words will get you further in life than most things. So I think that was the pivotal moment when he decided that he would help me and mentor me, and I showed appreciation. And then he did everything in his power to make sure that I stayed on that path of growth and education. So,
So I think so my experience in corporate, I worked 14 years in corporate, and there was one person that believed that I could progress and be successful. And that
mm-hmm.
person has always been very dear to me in that memory. I think with success, you always need someone to lead you or push you or pull you, whichever way it is in that business. And that's great. It's fantastic to hear that story of someone actually believed that you could be successful. And the fact that you stayed in contact with him for so many years is just a wonderful
Yep.
illustration of that.
Yep.
So
So
what
find a
led you?
mentor. That's
Yeah, find a
mm-hmm.
mentor. 100% agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
So what led you from corporate sales leadership into becoming a fractional CRO? What was that shift?
Mm-hmm.
Where did that happen and how did that happen?
Sure. Yeah, being in the jobs that I was in and running these high performance sales and marketing teams made me a travel maven. I think I have close to 3 million miles in the air and over 2 years in hotel rooms. It was a sacrifice that I made, and some regret there that I missed too many birthday parties and soccer games with the kids. I tried to make up with it with family travel because I had lots of points everywhere, and I still do that. But when it was really COVID that made me make this decision, it was just plain and simple. I
Right.
was helping out a company. I was actually employed by them, but it was a company that serviced the retail market in malls. And when malls closed, there
Yeah.
was nothing to do, literally nothing to do. And I actually helped this guy save his business. I instructed him on how to farm out his capacity to somebody else, which he did. He survived. But I said, you need to let me go. I can't do you any good. And I wasn't dying for a job. It wasn't so important to me. And I sat there and said, do I want to do this again? Do I want to go do this one more time? Do I want to take another dance at the same event? or do I want to do something different? And I literally, right after COVID and after I left that job, I sat down on the New York State website and filed for Growth Plan Partners LLC. And my concept was just to help businesses in the industries that I had previously served
Yeah.
and grew the bigger companies in them to use that knowledge to help them grow. And I did get my first couple of clients that way. But then I chuckle and I laugh and I say, you know what? I realized how important those direct reports around me were and how much work they actually did when I was doing what I did. And
Yeah.
so when you go out on your own, it's important to have a support structure. And that's
Yeah.
why after a while I found Sales Acceleration and they became that support structure and that partner to help me better serve my clients. Yeah, that was the sheer impetus, was just wasn't looking to get on another plane too quickly or stay in another hotel room. And I really said to myself how great this would be. I help people all over the United States. I have clients in I'm in New York, California, Texas. I can do it from anywhere, but it's really fun when you can do it locally and you
Yeah.
can go in and meet them in person and engage that way. So
Yeah.
wherever I can, I do. So
What would you say your risk appetite is?
my risk appetite has always been high. Always. You take those assessments and disc assessments and those
Yeah.
other
Yeah. I
kinds,
know
and
disc very
and
well.
I always come up as the risk taker. That's who I am. It's who sometimes you remind me of a funny story. You always had to bring data, and as I got more experienced in executive management, obviously, systems and data and proof and research becomes very important to gain the trust of others to move things forward. But I remember one time I had always tried to do that, but then I had this really exciting thing that I wanted to do. And I knew it was a little risky, and I didn't have all the data. I didn't have time to do the research yet, but I wanted to sell this thing to management because I knew if we were first to the dance, we were going to win this game. So I ran into my CFO's office and I blurted out this game plan of what I wanted to do and get his backing so that I could put together the business plan and move it forward. And he says, "Where's the data, John? Where is the data?" And I said, "I haven't had time for that yet," because normally they would send me out. I would go to trade shows. I'd bring stuff back. I'd give them research on the competitors, but I hadn't had time to do that yet. And he just looked at me and he goes, "Look at the back of a U.S. bill. I believe in the same philosophy. In God I trust. All others bring data." And he showed me the goal. So I am a risk taker, but I've learned you got to temper your excitement, go out and get the data to show people that it's got potential, and then you can win the game.
Has that risk appetite ever got you in problems? Have you had a big failure? Like, we've all had failures, but if your risk appetite is quite high and you're willing to take chances, has it ever gone wrong, and how did you rebound from it?
Yeah, nothing catastrophic, thank God. It was never a division that folded on itself or anything like that. I would say my risk appetite has gotten me in trouble in trusting salespeople, hiring them. Okay. I now say to myself, and I have for years and years, that the best sales job a salesperson will ever do or make is their interview to get their job. And my wife even tells me the old adage, there's a sucker born every minute. She tells me I'm a sucker in front of a good salesperson. I'll buy whatever
Right.
they're selling just because I'm so enthralled with their technique and what they're doing to get me
Yeah.
and keep me excited about the process. But anyway, back to your question. The ones that exploded on me were hiring the wrong person, not putting enough attention into the actual roles and responsibilities and what need to be done. And for years, I now use personality profiling and assessments, always to check my gut. I think it got pretty good over 35, 40 years of hiring salespeople. But early on, someone would come in, yes, this is the person. They're so excited for me and everything else. And I would get out there and they didn't do the job. They didn't have the skill set. They didn't have the enthusiasm I thought they had. I got fooled. I got snowed. So I think those were my biggest failures, was learning how to truly assess a person and more so assess their motivation before their skills or their past performance. I think what motivates them is really what's going to be the determinant of their success in business.
Look, John, hiring and firing is the most difficult thing in business, in my view. We can
Hmm.
always measure
Yep.
other things. You can always make good gut decisions, but hiring and firing is one of the hardest aspects. I think it's the hardest aspect of business growth because you're making a judgment call on an hour's conversation or a couple of hours conversations and able to know people's aptitude and their mentality and their values all within a relatively short period of time can be very difficult to be able to do. Like, I don't think you should feel too bad about that. We've all made some bad hiring decisions.
So you had to go back to the adage of hire slow and fire fast.
Yes, exactly. So if there's a listener on this show that is a business owner and they're stuck in sales right now, what would be the first step that you would advise them to take for
Mhm.
trying to get out of that rut?
Yeah, if I can help in any way, obviously contact me, and I have an assessment which I am willing to do with no obligation. So I think the first thing is to identify where the issues are. I think that's where people become overwhelmed. Sales decrease and they're grasping at possible causes, and they don't really understand it. So what I would encourage them to do is reach out for me. Again, no obligation. As I said, I'm not looking to bring in every client here, and I'll only help people I know I can help, and I'll be totally honest with you, or I'll refer you to somebody else. But I have an assessment that's been developed over the past 15 years through Sales Acceleration, where just through a series of 40 questions, just telling me what you do and you don't do, I can then come back and say, here's your biggest areas of concern, and here's where I would start. Okay. It's maybe you need to start on your people. Maybe you need to start on your process. Maybe you need to start on your strategy. There's all different areas of sales that we handle. And it is different. It is definitely different for different types of clients. Let me help you that way by pointing you in the areas. It would be like going to a doctor for a blood test. I know you
Yeah,
don't feel well. Okay. But please come to me and let me give you the blood test. And I'm going to tell you at least what's in range and what's out of range. And then we
yeah.
can discuss a plan to get you healthy again.
Amazing. Look, we're coming to the end of the interview. I ask the same six
Mhm.
questions to all of my guests. They're quick fire questions, but they don't need a quick
Sure.
fire answer. They've been told to me they're being thought provoking, is how people have described it. First
I love
question
it.
is, what's the best decision that you made?
The best decision I made is to go out on my own 4 years ago as a business decision. Yes. I should have done it 15 years earlier.
Do you think if you'd have built it 15 years earlier, you would have built an empire rather than built a one person business?
Absolutely. No question about it. Then I would have been on that road to build my wealth and set myself up. Yeah, I would have taken a definite different approach. I would have given it the effort that I gave my jobs back in those days.
Yeah, very interesting. Because a lot of people, some of my listeners and viewers are sometimes in jobs now and they've got an aspiration, but they're just something's always holding them back. And we're here to inspire people and educate people on sometimes making that bold decision and going away from a security, or well, relative security. I now don't think corporate jobs are as secure as they were perhaps
Right.
10, 15 years ago than they are.
Right.
Thank you for your
But the
honesty
biggest
there.
thing to adjust to is that consistent paycheck, be it
Yeah,
weekly, monthly, whatever it is.
yeah,
And once you go out on your own, that gets a little scary at the beginning. So you have
yeah,
to be prepared for that. And maybe part of the reason I didn't make the decision was financially. I was
right.
financially fearful that this wouldn't pay off as quickly as possible. So,
Yeah. Next question. What's the best piece of advice you've been given?
best piece of advice, ask questions. The secret to obtaining knowledge and to helping others is asking questions. It's just, I've told my kids that for years. If you want to be good in school, if you want to become genuinely interested and ask questions, it's the best way to learn.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like curiosity as a sort of mindset is actually
Hmm.
super important and it will accelerate your growth if you're asking the right questions to the right people. Because
Right.
as we said earlier, coaches and mentors are there to be able to support you. If you've got someone that that has the right skill sets to be able to propel your business, they can make huge increases in your growth with the right person
Mhm.
giving you the right piece of advice. So yeah, I would 100% agree with
Absolutely.
you. Who's the person that's helped you most in your career?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to that sales
Sure.
trainer. His name was Al Restivo. He was a great man. And like I said, he passed a few years ago, but he took me under his wing and really helped me.
Amazing. Next question. Tell me about a regret that you have.
Again, the volume of travel I did in my kids' younger years. I would have preferred if I could have been a little closer to home or had a few more days for those soccer games and birthday parties. I try to make up for it. I continue to try to make up for it. I'm taking my daughter is now 28 and married. My son is 32, but we're having them on a summer vacation with us up at Cape
Nice.
Cod to just spend a week together.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's amazing. Family time is important, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's so integral for my life. I totally understand that. Next question. Share a time when you wanted to stop and what actually pulled you through to continue moving forwards.
Well, that company that I mentioned that I became the CEO and president of, after about a year into it, I wasn't convinced that I liked being the leader, the CEO, the president. Okay. There was a tremendous amount of pressure, and I felt a tremendous amount of minutia that I found boring and time consuming. These, to me, I considered insignificant decisions that had to be made every day. That I'm like,
Right.
does people really care about this stuff? This isn't exciting. This isn't moving us forward, type of thing. I think that was one of the times that I got stuck and just wasn't sure that I wanted to be there, type of thing. And what got me through, again, I said it before, showing up. Just show up every day. Then you find a reason every day where your skills can help somebody. You can get refocused on something where you can make a bigger impact. And then you can kind of sweep that minutia under the table. And then the decision was made to sell the company, and then the world changed, and I was involved in a much more exciting process from that point forward.
Yeah, showing up is so important. Even when it's tough, even when it's hard, being able to continue taking steps forward, I think is something that we should all take from this conversation because it is so critical. Whether it's a corporate job, whether it's your business, just showing up every
Yep.
day is massively
Yeah.
important.
Take it back to networking. I'm in a group where we have accountability partners on a project we're working on. So I was talking to the woman that's my accountability partner, and you always ask, "What'd you do this week?" Whatever. Oh, I went to this networking thing, and I said, "How?" Oh God, I didn't want to go. I was tired. It was from 6 to 8 o'clock at night, and whatever. She goes, "But you know what? I went. I stood next to this guy. Before you know it, we're chatting. I got a job. I now have a job I brought in, type of thing, because I showed up."
Yeah,
And that's happened to me too. You go to these
yeah,
events, and sometimes it's you're just not sure, but that one or two contact, you never know where it's going to come from. So
yeah,
show up.
absolutely. Tell me something that most people don't know about you.
I'm a definitive foodie. And what I mean by that is my wife is Italian. She's a phenomenal cook. And we still keep some of her family Italian traditions, meaning we make our own tomato sauce every year with some
Nice.
other family friends. We make 500 pounds of
Whoa.
tomato. We turn into sauce every late August, early September. That'll be coming up in another month. And we make homemade sausage that we actually salt cure and hang in the attic in the wintertime. So that's kind of
Amazing.
the winter project are these homemade sausages. But anywhere we've traveled, my wife and I, we've generally taken a cooking class.
Right.
We've been lucky. We've been in most of the continents of the world and lots of different countries, and we'll always take a cooking class there as part of our adventures.
Have you ever been to San Sebastian in northern Spain?
I have not. No,
As a
no.
foodie, look it up.
Hmm.
San
Okay.
Sebastian, North Italy.
Got it.
It's like the Basque region of northern Spain.
Okay.
It's supposed to be the gastric center of the world. I think there's more Michelin star restaurants in San Sebastian than any other place in the world. And
Interesting.
but even the sort of peasant food, even the sort of tapas that you get at the
Right.
bar, is
Right.
phenomenal. It's
I
absolutely
will.
incredible. So check that out. It definitely should be on your bucket list of places
I
to.
was in Spain last year, but we only did Barcelona, and then we
Oh,
went down to
Barcelona.
Mallorca.
Barcelona's my
We
favorite
had a
city.
wedding. Yeah, we had a
Barcelona's my
wedding in
favorite city. And
Barcelona.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
a lot of
fantastic.
fun.
Next question. What does legacy mean to you?
Legacy means to me the appreciation of a job well done. I still get calls from salespeople that worked for me 20 years ago and just a thank you, or hey, I saw what you posted on LinkedIn. It's so cool to see what you're doing today, deal. Or remember my very first client 4.5 years, I guess it's getting close to 4.5 years ago or so, that the minute I walked in the door, most salespeople think I'm going to fire them, right? Because I'm this consultant that just got hired and I'm getting fired, right? Type of thing. And this gentleman was in his 60s and he was absolutely convinced I was going to let him go. And within a couple of weeks, I said, "You're the best thing that this place ever had. Let me just show you how to do it better." And within 6 months, he doubled sales with a refocus on types of clients and everything else. He still sends me texts.
Oh,
Thank you enough
amazing.
for how you helped me, and et cetera, et cetera. So to me, that's legacy. Just a couple of thank yous, a couple of nods of appreciation. That's what makes my day. My wife and I volunteer at some hospitals and things like that. And that's just that look, that smile, that hand of thank you. That's
That's
all I want.
amazing. And lastly, where can people find you if they want to find out more about you and your business?
Sure. I am on LinkedIn. I am, again, through my name, John Noonan, Noonan. And my email is as simple as jnoonan, I know it's a big one, at growthplanpartners.com. jnoonan at growthplanpartners.com. So either way, just find a way to link to me and connect. I will reach out for you and happy to help in any way that I can.
Brilliant. Thank you, John. Thank you so much for being a guest on my show. It's been an absolute pleasure to deep dive into sales and your experience in there. So thank you very much for being my guest.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much.
Cheers.